just review the facts in the Ramban real quickly. So the Ramban basically holds, because I want to move on. So the Ramban holds that essentially holds that Eretz Yisrael was built up, okay, during the times of Purim, which obviously is a very different historical narrative. Right, it's a different historical narrative than the Ram. And but the point of the Ramban is that he said historically what took place was that the Prozim and the Mukafim both celebrated on Yud. Now what happened was that the Prozim, when the decree came out that all the Jews were going to be killed, so if you lived in an unwalled city, you were petrified. You felt like a big sakana. But if you were in a walled city, you didn't experience as much of a sakana. Correct? Remember that? Okay, you didn't experience as much of a sakana. So that being the case, so everyone celebrated that first year. But what happened after the first year? You guys remember what happened after the first year? Who continued to celebrate it?
Rav, what was his name? Rav
The Prozim.
The Prozim. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the unwalled cities continued to celebrate, but the walled cities did what? They stopped. Okay, they stopped celebrating. Okay. Now, what happened later on? So Mordechai. and that was a problem. So Mordechai. We didn't answer this yesterday, by the way. I want to bring that up also, but through some sort of nevuah, like God was opened up his eyes, and they found a smach in the Torah. Mordechai said, and this is the lashon that's important. He said, it says like this. It says. Amad Mordechai ubezino v'ro divrayim shel Prozim, okay, sheroi hanes hazeh lasos lo zecher ledoros. So they looked at what the Prozim did, okay, and they said this miracle is roi, is appropriate to make it a zecher ledoros. V'kavu oso al kol Yisrael, and they were koveyed for all the Jews. Shekulon hayab b'safek, because every Jew was in Safek, okay. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But so then why not have it on one day? They should all be on Yudalad. Lahakdim Prozim L'Mukafim, but they wanted to differentiate the unwalled from the walled cities, so they made it earlier. Okay? Gadol. Okay, because their miracle, this is the key line, was greater. Their miracle was greater by the unwalled cities. Okay? Shehemi Schilu Mitzvah Tchila. Lasos lahem levadam yontov. And how do we know that their nace was bigger? It's interesting. He's not saying. The question is, what do you mean the nace is bigger? But every Jew was saved, right? Everyone was besafek. Every Jew was besafek. So what do you mean? How could it be that there's a greater miracle by the Prozim if every Jew was saved equally? You understand? So what he's saying is that it's not that they had a bigger miracle, but it's in the fact that they celebrated year after year, right? Remember that, Yaakov?
Yep.
Okay. So Lefika kavu yom noach shel Prozim biyoman v'shel krachim mukafin kavu biyom noach shel Shushan. So therefore, what did they do? The Prozim, the day they celebrated Yudalad, that became their day, and for mukafin they tied it to Shushan. Okay, they tied it to Shushan. So what's the svara? Okay, what's the svara? What's the Ramban's position? Right? What's he ultimately saying? Okay, so the most important move he makes. Do you remember? What's the most important move he makes? This is the question we asked yesterday. Okay, why did the mukafim celebrate after the first year? Or let me rephrase the question. What does that show us about the walled city people? The fact they celebrated the first year, but not in future years.
They didn't feel as part of the nace.
Right. Okay. So the Ramban's introducing a remarkable idea. He's saying that how you experience the actual nace, your personal experience of it, not the objective nace. Okay. Not the fact that Klal Yisrael was in danger, but your experience of the miracle will dictate how this thing is going to be koveya. Okay. That's a profound idea. So, and look how he builds his case. He says, what happened the first year? Why did the Mukafim celebrate Purim the first year? Not because they felt like they went through a great miracle, because they didn't experience a great miracle from their perspective. They didn't feel like they were in danger. So why did they celebrate? Because what do? They identified
with the bigger
Am. They said, listen, we recognize that we're part of Bnei Yisrael. It's like, the example I gave yesterday, it's like, what?
Or did it take a year?
No. They celebrated that year. They never celebrated again, though. Because, okay, it's very nice, but since we didn't experience it, what happens if you don't experience it yourself? It dies off, right? Again, I'll put it the way I put it yesterday was like this. You have like by Gettysburg, okay? So when the victory at Gettysburg took place, along with Vicksburg, so Lincoln, there was like a day of celebration throughout the Union, throughout the northern half of America. Everybody partied, everybody, okay? People who were involved in Gettysburg and people who weren't involved in Gettysburg, everybody partied. Okay. Now, obviously, the Gettysburg people, for them going through that experience, is much more powerful than the guy sitting in New York City, right? But what happened after that first year?
Everyone else stopped except
only Gettysburg people, right? So the Ramban's taking that notion and he's making that as part of the nace. It's not but there's a problem though. Okay, so the question is, so why not just have it in one day? Okay, so the problem is like this. The problem is that if you have it in one day, there is some reality to the concept of identification. What does it allow you to do?
Celebrate
the
more.
story better.
Right.
Because
Like the
they
nace better.
could relate themselves to Shushan, which was also a walled city. And
They don't have to be-
similar to their victory.
I don't know about that because it's not clear Shushan's victory. Shushan seemed like they were in Suffolk. Shushan seems like they were in Suffolk, even though they were walled, because that's where the edict was coming out of. You know what I mean?
So is he saying the Maker Nace was on the first?
He didn't say Ikranes. Never says Ikranes. Ezra, always be careful of Lashon. He says, Nisam Gadol. But what made the Nace greater in the present? Not the Nace, there's the miraculous thing of Purim was equal across the board. If you were a Jew, you were saved. But because their experience was one of greater sakana, so they relate to the Nace in a more experiential way. Okay? But the Mukafim, that idea is an important idea to retain. Right? That's the idea of the entire Am was in danger. Okay, so Purim. Why do you have 2 days of Purim? All right, this is why it looks so beautifully with the Ran. The Ran was saying that Tesvav is really the essential day, right? And Yudalad is you need Tesvav because why does Tesvav exist? Yudalad should relate to it and recognize Vekar Naces and Shushan. But the Ramban says the opposite. Ramban says really the Iker is really the experiential great sakana. Nafoch miyag l'simcha. That idea, which is personified in the present, but you have to also, which is very nice, but you also have to recognize that even though that's true, right? The notion of the greater Am, the whole Am being in danger, and looking at it from a non-experiential way, but something from an objective way, that there was a nace, it saved all the Jews. That idea must be extant as well, and that's why Shushan Purim must still exist.
Identification is part of the nace.
Yes. Okay. By the way, side note, just think about that for a second. Side note. What's the Ramban? It's funny, the Ramban throws this in, but why does Ramban tell you that?
2 days?
That's right, 2 days. Why does Ramban say you have to? It was Heir Einehem, that God came was Meir Einehem, like he lit up, whatever that means. Their eyes were enlightened, and they found a smach in the Torah. Okay, why does he have both those things? What do you think? He says Mordechai. Why did Mordechai act in his own? He didn't. Mordechai was sitting around, right, and all of a sudden there's this sort of nevuah, I don't know what you want to call it, like some sort of something,
Revelation.
right? And he looks for a smach in the Torah. Okay, so what's the Ramban telling you? It's subtle, but it's an important
Kind of
point.
right to what he was saying, how like one's the experiential and one's the how you identify the Torah itself.
One is no, I don't know about that. I think it's more of a halachic thing.
Okay.
What's he telling you? What's he telling you ultimately?
Can you say it one more time?
What is the Ramban's telling you? The Ramban's telling you that before Mordechai didn't act on his own initiative. Okay, that God into being creating Purim. That it was that Hakadosh Baruch Hu opened up their eyes and he found a smach in the Torah, and with those two things in place, then he went ahead and was made Purim. I just think he's telling you a specific
Precedence.
what?
Precedence.
Yeah, but not in the same way as the Ran. You're correct, but not the same way as the Ran. The Ran looks for halachic precedents that Chazal are going to turn to. But the Ramban would say that Chazal have no right whatsoever to be Kovei Purim. None. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to give some sort of like, what do you call it? Yeah, like a light bulb had to go off. You know what I mean? Like that kind of phenomenon, right? So that gives him the indication. But what does that teach him though? That teaches him that it's important that the idea of the nace continue to exist. But there's a problem though. Just because God says so, because that's what it means, Heir and Am. What does it mean here? It means that God is telling them this. It's important for this nace to stick around. But there's a problem though. Why is that not enough?
One for this nace to stick around.
Yeah, in other words, Mordechai didn't. The Purim continued to celebrate.
Yeah.
The Mukafim stopped. Okay, Mordechai didn't do anything. God comes along and this light bulb idea comes into his brain to go ahead and be Kovei Purim. Okay, why is he to wait for
Already after the nace.
after the nace? Okay, so the problem is that because what would end up happening? What would end up happening is that the Purim will continue to celebrate, right? They would continue to celebrate,
And 1 year people would stop.
right? And then the Mukafim would stop, right? And so that would be a problem. But Mordechai is not the one who identified the problem. Who tells him what the problem is?
Wait, are you saying that Mordecai was the one who set up Purim to celebrate?
Mordechai ultimately is the one who's responsible for Kovea Purim, Ladoros, right? But what was the origin of him being able to do it? So the first thing is God tells him there's something important going on here, but then says, "What's a smach min Torah?"
But they first celebrated on their own.
Yes, they first, but it wasn't Purim. It was like it was Nace, Great Nace Day. You know what I mean? Great Nace and Shushan Day. You know, that's what I would call it.
He was Koveya for both Prozim and...
Yes, that was his chiddush. Okay, but I just want to know this. I just want to know why you need both. What is it telling you? It's just a simple idea.
It's
Why isn't God enough? Or as God says, you should do this. Here and am. So what do you see about how the halachic system works?
because the emotional is not going to last if you don't have.
No, more than that. What does it show you about how the halachic system works?
He's trying to show like a remembrance kind of because if we're not Koveya Purim, then it.
I agree. That's the overall
It could have
idea.
been wiped out.
But why does Mordechai have to look for a smach in the
You
Torah?
don't do
Can't
the
be outside
mindset
of the Torah, though.
What? Well, okay, right. Okay, so just because God tells you doesn't mean
They have
that.
this Torah here that they
Right.
told
So
me
you
has to
see-
be for the nation.
So what the Ramban, I think what the Ramban is really telling you, I think what he's really telling you, if you wanted to just go one level beneath the surface, he's telling you that if Chazal are gonna, this is the key thing, if they're not gonna make up a day, okay, because that's what they're doing here. They're making up a yontiv. They're creating a day. Okay,
Why
they can't
is
just
it
create a
the
day.
thing, though? There's no
What?
carbon. There's no like.
Doesn't matter though. But they're creating mitzvos. They're creating mitzvos. Chazal don't create things. The primary role of Chazal, the Rabbanans, is to take the Raisas and protect them. So when they create, they're just extending the Raisas. They're saying this is a Raisa, and now we're going to build off of the Raisa and surround it with these like a siyag. They surround it with certain Rabbanans. But they're not making things up out of the blue.
So
This is made up out of the blue.
Right, but you're also saying that these things that are halachic principles on Purim are also Deoraisa on the Torah level because of this month.
There's no. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that
But you could.
Well, yes. Well, I'm not saying it's not that these things are midoraisa, but it's that they looked to the Torah and they found a halachic. I don't want to say precedent, but mechanism that exists. I don't know what, but they looked to it because the Ramban doesn't tell you. But they looked to the Torah because you need some halachic mechanism, some precedent that exists in order to create the yantiv. So you need two ingredients to create Purim. One is some nevuah, right, and the second thing is, but that's not enough. You also then have to go into the Torah and find some precedent that exists in order to allow the halachic expression to emerge. Do you know what I mean? It won't be enough just to rely on God. You need both. That's how you create the Rabban Yantav.
Well, the fact that you looked into the thing for the smach, what do you call it, smach?
Smach, no, it says smach min Torah, like a source, not like a. We don't mean like an obvious source. Smach's like a hidden source.
That's like
you know?
that shows you that there has to be.
Like, I hate to use the word, but he needed a svara from the Torah.
Why do you have to use this?
I'm saying that's what it means. Like, he went to the Torah and he looked for a svara. He needed some svara in order to do this, because you can't just rely on God opening up your eyes. Okay, that's the Ramban.
What's it called? The one.
Just to let you know why. So I'll say it one more time. Okay. So on another level, the machlokes between the Ran and the Ramban is also about how you view the nace of Purim, the greater nace, so to speak. The Ran is telling you that Ikra nace is in Shushan, meaning that's where the plan took place, etc. But the Ramban saying is that your experience of the nace is what makes it the greater nace. Why does the Ramban? See, no matter what you say about the Ramban, in my opinion, he's the weaker position versus the Ran. Why is the Ramban driven though to say this? Why does Ramban not say that the Ikra nace took place in Shushan? Why wouldn't he say that? It seems pretty clear the Ikra nace took place in Shushan. Why?
Rove.
Was it Rove? Okay, keep going. What do you mean by Rove?
Nation.
Okay, good, okay.
Not everyone felt it in the 15th day, historically.
Okay, good. So now let me reverse
Full
it.
experience.
What's bothering the Ramban about the Ran's position? That the Ran goes ahead and says there's Ikra nace and Shushan. What does he like about that? Because what's implied in that statement? There's an implication that the Ramban doesn't like, in my
That
opinion.
first day wasn't as big of an it. It was like less. Not everyone was like.
More than that.
It's
See,
lesser,
this is.
it's lesser if it's not a Shushan.
Well, let's be clear. What's the difference between Ikra nace? I told you the lashon Ikra nace versus Nisam Gadol.
Iker means it's
I don't know.
it's the main one.
Yeah, you do.
Main.
Okay, wait. Ikra nace means it's the main miracle.
Right.
Nisam Gadol means
It was
what?
a big miracle.
Greater. Now, what's the difference? Meaning qualitative, quantitative. Okay, but if the Ikra nace is really qualitative, what's that really telling you then? That what took place in Purim? There were two distinct miracles. The Ramban doesn't like that. The Ramban wants to say it's one nace. Right? It's just that you experienced you had a greater miraculous experience, but it's one nace of Purim.
Still
Get that
connected.
from Iker.
Okay, because what does Ikra mean?
If you look at Iker,
Think about it. The question I want to take up is how do you look at the Gemara is a very strange concept of how you look at a Megillah, right? Is a Megillah can be one of two things in terms of the Chafza itself. Okay, Megillah is either what or what. And you guys are familiar with this. So take a look at page.
Isn't it like most? No, the second
Hold on.
chapter?
Take a look at the third page. Okay.
One last thing about.
No. You're killing me. Megillah tell us.
V'tiftav Esther Malka Bas Avichail U'Mordechai Hayidi Es Kol Tokef L'Kaim Es Igeret HaPurim Hazos Hasheni.
Okay, so what does it tell us? So Esther and Mordechai wrote down, right, everything that took place in the Megillah, right? L'Kayim, right?
Igeret HaPurim, the letters of Purim.
Right? Igeris.
The movement.
No, what's an Igeris?
A letter. I thought.
Well, a letter. I'm sorry, you said that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said letter.
Right, L'Kayim is Igeris, HaPurim is Osashenis, right? But what is the Megillah called first? It's called
Igeret.
Igeris. So the Megillah is considered a letter. Okay, a letter.
To all the nations.
Very good. Okay. Now keep going.
Vayishlach Sfarim Es Kol Yehudim Es El Sheva Va'Esrim U'Meya Medina Malchus Achashverosh Divrei Shalosh Lamesh. They sent Sfarim, like, what is Sfarim?
He scrolls out to let all the Jews know. Okay, go to the next pasuk.
Okay, like.
Actually, go skip to pasuk Lama Beis. Umama Esther.
Umam Esther Kayan Divrei Purim Eilel V'Nichtav B'Sefer.
So it was written down in what?
The King's Scroll.
No, it was written down in what?
Oh, it was written down in a scroll.
Or Sefer. What's a Sefer?
A book.
A book. Okay,
We
so
translated scroll, so I got it.
all right, fine. But you can call it a scroll. But one second. So now we have the Megillah described in two ways in the Megillah. Okay, the Megillah is described as what? It's both described as an Igeris and as a Sefer. Okay, so they have a big problem. Big problem.
Which one do you read out of?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean,
The Mishnah Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, right? It says Haisa Ksuva. Who's reading?
I'll read.
Bisam of a Sikra.
Bisam Uvasikra, Uvikumos, Uvikantuntum, Alniyar, Val Hadapstar,
Diftera.
Israel, Lo Yatsa, Ad Shitaheg, Tuva, Ashurit, Al Sefer, Viada.
Uvdiyo. Okay. Oh.
Sam means like.
Oh, wait, so that's a distraction. I don't care what those things mean.
I just want to know.
The Psalm usually does mean that, but it doesn't matter. The point is, all these things are things that if you wrote on a Sefer Torah, you wouldn't be. You have. Well, it's interesting. It wouldn't be Sefer Torah. What's the lashon the Mishnah uses? Lo yatsa.
Yeah.
What do you mean lo yatsa?
I mean, it is there.
Ooh, that's already picking up on one important point. Notice the Mishnah is telling you that lo yatsa, meaning what? Is it a Megillah or not?
Yeah.
It might be,
But
if you read from it, you're not yotze. Okay, but what do you need? You need Sefer and Dio. Sefer means
parchment.
Dio means
Ink.
Ink. By the way, that's the word they use today. Dio is if you run out of ink in your printer in Israel, you ask for more. Dio. Dio means ink. Okay, but it means kosher ink. Okay, so you need both. You need both. You need both cloth and ink, which would therefore imply what is a Megillah. What's a Megillah then? Is a Megillah an Igaris or a Sefer? What's a Megillah? What does it imply? A Megillah is what? An Igaris or Sefer? If you need Sefer and Dio, what is a Megillah?
Sefer.
A Sefer, right? It would seem at this point it would seem like Megillah is a Sefer.
Yeah,
okay.
That's not the difference between them. You just said the whole.
Do we get to that yet? Wait a second.
But that's not.
Wait a second. Wait.
Why would you assume it's a Sefer?
Why can't? Because it says you can't use those things which you normally write a Sefer Torah with will be puzzle in the Sefer Torah. You can't use those for Megillah. Okay, which would therefore imply what? Megillah is like a Sefer.
Why are you using that?
The Gemara says, "Ala Sefer uvdio."
Al Sefer Udio, Maglin Asya Ksiva.
Minolan.
Minalan, sorry.
So where do we know this from? How do you know? How do you know that has to be written on parchment and with kosher ink?
Ksiva, Kasiv Hacha.
No, so it says ksiva. Okay, ksiv hacha. It says here, meaning in the Megillah.
V'tichtav Esther Amalka.
So it says vatichtov Esther Malka. That Esther wrote. Okay, uksiv hasam.
Some is written over there. Vayomer lahem baruch mipiv. Yikra Eli.
As kol havrim ha'eleh. Vani kosev al.
Al Sefer B'diyah.
And that's referring to, I think it's Yirmiyahu. Okay, Yirmiyahu.
Can't you not have a Gezerah Shavah though from Ksubim to like Nach or Nach from Torah?
Seems no. It seems like you can, but that's a good question of itself. But but first let's understand what's the Gezerah Shavah. What's the Gezerah Shavah? Yirmiyahu wrote down
Stuff with Sefer and Bedio.
Sefer and Dio. What'd you call it?
I Sefer Bedio.
Bedio, no, Dio, right? Dio. So therefore, we also write the Megillah with Sefer and Dio. Okay, so that's the Gezerah Shavah. So hold on, just take that point and just store it away for 1 second. Okay, I'm trying to get all the facts down for the Ramban. Take a look now at the other Gemara I marked off. Okay, what does the Gemara say? Now we're going to get to Arya's point from before.
Why does it matter where we break Yirmiyahu?
That's a good question. We'll take it up. Hold on.
Nothing to do with Purim.
No, it doesn't. V'amar Rav Chalbo.
Amar Rav
Doesn't seem
Chalba,
like right
Amar Rav Chama, Bar Nurei, Amar Rav Megilla Nikra Sefer, Nikra.
So what's a Megillah called? It's Megillah Nikras Sefer, right? Look at Rashi real quickly. Nikras Sefer. Rashi, Nikras Sefer, v'nichtav b'sefer. Because it says, what does it say in the Megillah? V'nichtav b'sefer, which means written down like a, but what kind of book do we mean? More than that. Like a Sefer Torah. So on the one hand, it's like a, you'll see why. Okay, on the one hand, it's like a Sefer Torah. The Gemara's going to say so. On one hand, it's like a Sefer. On the other hand, it's called Nigeris. Okay, so keep going. Now, Arya's question is about to come up. Okay.
Sheim Tifra Bechute Pishtan, and if it was a seam
sewn
with thread and flax. Psula v'nikras Igeret.
No, psula. Okay, so if you took a Megillah and you used strings of pishtan, linen strings or flax, whatever, right, to tie the pieces of cloth together, okay, puzzle. Why? What can't you use that for? Here comes the point, Arya, I was trying to make all along. What can't you use that for? You can't use chote pishtan on what? Look at Rashi. Shem Tafra b'chute pisham psula de'ika laman amar mesechas makos Sefer Torah shetafro b'pisham psula. Okay, you can't use pishtan strings on a Sefer Torah. So on the one hand, the Megillah is like a Sefer Torah.
Sure.
On the other hand, it's like an Igeret. Why? Here's a nafkamina. V'nikras Igeret she'im.
Sheim Hatil Ba Shalosh Chute Gidin Kshera. Amar Rav.
No, that's it. So, because if you tied into it, okay, if you only use 3, because what kind of chutim are you supposed to use? What's gid? Come on, what's gid?
A goat?
Yes.
A young goat?
But we're talking about yeah, I can't deny that you're correct. I just wondering what part. We're talking about
The flax.
no, look at your tefillin, okay? If you look at your tefillin, if you look at your tefillin, what is used to tie down the, what do you call it?
Little strings, I don't know.
Yeah, what are they made out of?
I have no idea.
Skin.
What? No, not skin. Close.
Fat.
Sinews.
Sinew,
Okay,
right.
sinews.
Sinews.
Okay, but they come from an animal. Okay, so what's he saying here? He's saying that you can't. You can use if you use shlosha chutei gidin, it's kshera. Why? What is it obviously telling you?
It's more like a
Igeret, because you need more than that when it comes to Sefer Torah. Okay, you need a different. What do you call it, composition of the chutim when it comes to Sefer Torah. Okay, look at Rashi. Look at Rashi. Rashi says v'nikras
We're
Igeret
changing our view now. When we refer to Sefer, we're referring to
Sefer Torah. Okay.
even in the Mishnah.
Yes. Now, right now, the question is that how do we understand Megillah? What is this business of it being both Igeret and Sefer? Okay, and the Gemara points out there's one. First, you have the Gzera Shava. Keep that in mind. Okay, and as the Gemara later on points out, Igeret seems to be more Mekel than Sefer. That's for sure, because you could do something in this Igeret that you can never do in a Sefer Torah.
But in Igeret is also just a default, right? Meaning if it's
The only time Igeret is ever mentioned as a phenomenon is by Megillah. Okay, it's not a default; it's a positive identity. You'll see. There's something positive to it. Okay.
but there is no halachic understanding to Igeret, you said.
Yes and no. Hold on. Yes and no. Okay. Let's take a look at the Ramban. So Ramban says Haditnon. See it? Haditnon.
Okay.
Yeah, turn the page. Haditnon ach take suva ala sefer b'diyo. So the Mishnah says that it has to be written on cloth with ink. Uvainan Allah b'gemara minalan, and the Gemara says later on, where do you know this from? V'amarava asya ksiva ksiva. So we have a Gzera Shava. So the Ramban says kashuli. Okay, this is what do you call it? A very interesting question. He says the Gzera Shava is a kasha to him. Okay, why? Lama lang Gzera Shava? What do we need a Gzera Shava ksiva for? The Halom Megillah nikre Sefer. Megillah is considered to be like a Sefer Torah. The din Sefer Torah aleh. And we see there's a din of a Sefer Torah on a Megillah. Right, so Megillah essentially is what?
Sefer Torah.
And Sefer Torah is inclusive of everything. So what do you have to have a Gzera Shava for to prove that Megillah is like a Sefer Torah? Right? He's saying you don't need a Gzera Shava. We know it's called Sefer. It's called Sefer. And therefore if it's called Sefer, all the halachas of Sefer Torah should apply to it. Okay? The Kaimalam of Sefer Torah, Ksav Shalo B'diyo, O Shekasav Haskaras B'Sahavar Yiganzu, meaning that if you go ahead and on a Sefer Torah, you write it without Diyo, you put into Geniza, meaning it's puzzle. Vitanya kasa niyar ol matlis psula. Okay, and we also see that if you go ahead and write a Sefer Torah on a piece of paper, it's puzzle. Okay.
Megillas also we're more. It's like there's halachos that are more mekel by it.
Well, I agree. We're going to get to that.
All the times name's not in it.
Yes, I agree. So the Ramban continues going on to all the things that you see that are prove that a Sefer Torah is that these things make a Sefer Torah apostle. Okay, so Kevan. So if you skip ahead, Kevan should call Elu Noagim Sefer Torah. So since all these things you can't use by Sefer Torah, Pshita Debsum Megillah. It says Kevan. So a couple lines down. So Kevan should call Elu Noagim Sefer Torah. He goes to all the things that you can't use in Sefer Torah. So there's all these things you can't use in the Sefer Torah. Pshita Debsum Megillah Shnikra Sefer. So it's obvious that you can't use these things as well in a Megillah, and therefore Megillah is really a Sefer. V'cheimash amru divrei shalom ve'emes, right? And then it says at the end of Megillah, these words of peace and truth, right? Milamed, okay, shetzricha sirtut, okay, kamita shel Torah, Tahina Sefer Torah mamish. Okay, what's sirtut? Anyone know what sirtut is?
Oh yeah. We did this,
I don't want to get. I paused and rushed to this. So I just want to get these facts down. What's sirtut?
We had this in Sefer. It's like, isn't it when you scrape it?
Okay, but what's the purpose of it? You're right. What's the purpose of it?
Erase.
No,
it's not erasing. It's
look at Sefer Torah. How's it written? It's written.
Oh, in lines.
Lines. Okay, sirtut is making sure it's written so it's line by line. If you know, how's tefillin written? Most tefillin doesn't usually have sirtut. If you open up the cloth for tefillin, what are you going to see? You kind of see like this or pasuk like this. You don't see everything written in a straight line.
Really?
Yeah.
This is also.
They don't. There's machlokas, but I'm saying
the most stringent.
No.
In film?
no. When it comes to sirtut, no. But Megillah requires sirtut. But why does Megillah require sirtut?
Sam Hosei the most stringent are tefillin and mezuzah.
I'm just telling you, there's machlokas. Briskers want sirtut. But anyway, but what is Megillah has? Megillah requires sirtut, right? Mm-hmm. And what else requires sirtut? A Sefer Torah. So therefore, what's a Megillah like? A Sefer Torah. Okay? So far, all these things, you don't need a Gzera Shabbat. We know Megillah's like a Sefer Torah. Okay, here's a key point. V'yesh lomar Megillah nikras Sefer, the nikras Igeret. Okay? This is pivotal. So Megillah is called both a Sefer, meaning Sefer Torah, and an Igeret. V'lo yadinan le'ezer davar hokshal Sefer, u'le'ezer davar hokshal Igeret. But we don't know. What's the question?
What's
this? He says, "V'lo yidainan le'ezeh davar hokshal sefer, le'ezeh davar hokshal igeres." We don't know which features are Sefer Torah and which features are igeres. Lefikach hutzrachnu l'gzera shava. So we need gzera shava. Why? Shetehei ksiva shelah kiss Sefer Torah. Listen to his lashon. Kiss Sefer Torah ala Sefer b'dio. It should be like a Sefer Torah with cloth and ink. V'adayin omer. Okay, well, actually, just stop right there. So he's saying at this point, he's saying that what's the purpose of Gzeret Shava? It's not that Megillah is a Sefer Torah. It's like identical to Sefer Torah. I mean, it has all the halachic requirements. The problem is that we see both Igeret and Sefer, right? So we don't know how much it should be like one, how it should be like the other. So what it's telling you, the Gzeret Shava is telling you that it should be like a Sefer Torah insofar as Sefer and Dio is concerned. Okay? Only insofar as those qualities. Okay? Cloth and Dio. Okay, but not insofar as
anything else.
We don't know what anything else is yet. Okay? So, the question I want to ask you is, at this point in the Ramban,